y'all. Welcome to the second vlog this week. I haven't vlogged on this channel in so long that it's just not coming naturally to me. I vlog on my other channel more, so this is different. It's a slight little difference. I am still kind of like tired from traveling yesterday. Coming back in and trying to get my life together. I actually came back to my house yesterday. That was not the intention, but with my parents' schedule, it just made more sense for me to just go ahead and come back home last night. And so here we are, here back home. I am currently on the way to get an oil change, which it worked out perfectly because I wasn't going to get an oil change on Saturday, but should have got an oil change before the trip. I just didn't have time to. So I'm gonna take my car in to get an oil change really quick. And I am working to get the first week's vlog posted on my channel today. I wanted it to go up yesterday, but it was a lot of footage. And for some reason, I think my phone has been like just shooting. I think I have it set to shoot in 4K, but it makes editing a little bit more difficult, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So there's that. But let's go ahead and talk about plans for this week. I didn't really get a lot of reading done last week, clearly, because I was chilling with the homies, which was a lot of fun. And so reading was not a priority. And I did finish, the first 2 rolls for Ruby's Crew. And I rolled again last night because I know I'm still reading Bitterroot, but like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to move through because I technically have already finished the prompt for the infection, but I am going to finish Bitterroot because I do have a conversation that I want to have about Bitterroot on my other channel on Friday. So I do plan to finish that this week. But outside of that, I did roll again and I got the second prompt, which is Root Magic. So I'm literally going to, because I still haven't read it, which is wild that I have not read it. I am going to read Root Magic by Eden Royce. And then after that, let me see, 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 out of the 6 prompts. I think before I roll again, I may just go ahead and read the group pick. I think that's going to be the next priority, is I'm going to read my Eden Royce book, then read the group pick, and then roll again. So I think that's just the way that I'm going to do it. In terms of other things that I'm currently reading, I'm still reading my Black AF history. I'm close to 100 pages into that, which I'm surprising because it is a history nonfiction book, and those usually can take a little bit of time, but I am taking my time with it and enjoying it. So there is that. And then what else? Am I reading anything else? I just pulled up to whatever it's called, freaking Firestone, and they keep saying like no parking. No parking, no parking, no parking. No parking, no parking, no parking. It's wild to say no parking in a parking lot full of parks. What was I about to say? I am reading that history nonfiction book. That's the physical book that I'm reading right now. And I am listening to Julieta and Romeos, which is a YA contemporary. I have like an hour and some change of that left, so I probably will end up finishing that. And then I will switch, when I finish that, I will switch over to reading Root Magic by Eden Royce, and then we'll go from there. But let me go ahead and step inside so that I can hurry up and get this oil change done. I'm going to finish editing this video while I'm sitting here waiting for my car, and then that'll be it. That'll be all, folks. All right, y'all. I'll check in later. Hello everyone, good morning. I just wanted to do a quick update because I haven't done an update since, what's the last time I did an update? I think when I was in the car, like right as I was traveling home was the last time that I did an update, and so I definitely needed to do an update. So here is my update. Wilding this morning. I am tired. I didn't toss and turn, but like I am tired, and this lighting is trash. I could have done this on my phone for all of this instead of doing it with this camera, because this camera is not giving me, it is not giving me light, honey. It is giving me darkness. There we go. Because it definitely was giving me darkness. Hello darkness, my old friend. That's the type of darkness. Girl, stop. You got a whole stop sign. Hello, friends. Let's jump into this update, because clearly I don't know how to talk this morning. I ain't got no brains this morning. The lighting on this camera is trash this morning, and we just gonna go with it. Like, this is not giving. This is not giving anything to me right now. The lighting is filth. It is filth. Why are you acting like this? Why are you behaving in this manner? This is ridiculous. Okay, so update. I ended up finishing Julieta and the Romeos. It was okay. It was a cute read. It wasn't necessarily memorable. I like that we got this interesting look into friendship, because of course, I don't think I really even told y'all anything about the book, but she is a writer, or she loves to write, and she's going to this camp class type of thing, and she ends up writing this work, and there she submits it on this site, and there is a mystery contributor, and so she's thinking that it could be one of 3 guys that are contributing to this writing that she does. And so she spends kind of the entirety of the novel trying to figure out who her mystery romancer person could be. And it was okay. I think that, like I said, there was an interesting look at friendship that I enjoyed, that I don't think I was necessarily expecting, that I think worked very, very well. It was fun. Definitely a quick and easy read. I loved that we got a little bit of Argentinian like culture mix in there, because our main character's family is from Argentina. There is some kind of look at some issues that she's dealing with, specifically with the relationship between her parents. And, you know, as someone who's had parents divorce, but I was younger, I always wonder what that emotional and what that feels like emotionally and mentally when parents split for someone who's older, and her parents are not divorced, but they run this restaurant, and the restaurant is having some financial issues, and it's causing some strain in between her parents' relationship. And so I think a lot of that, I think about like teens who are dealing with parents that are not necessarily getting along, or don't necessarily have the best relationship. And so you can see the representation of what it would be like to be, you know, 15, 16, 17 years old, dealing with parents that do not have the strongest relationship. And I think I did appreciate that more than what I anticipated. Not the parents arguing, but just getting that emotional, mental representation of what it's like to kind of deal with parents who seemingly are trying to work through their own relationship issues, which I'm sure as a teenager, you know, when you're used to seeing your parents in one way and then things kind of shift, it makes things tense, it makes things awkward. You're used to a certain home environment. And so I think the author did a good job with that. She definitely deals with some serious emotional things, because, you know, she's kind of like, she feels like she can tell that her parents care about each other, but they're not in love the way that they used to be. I will say, like, I don't necessarily think that any of our male leads were exceptionally memorable, but part of me wonders if that was the intent of the author, and that her expectations of this grandstand romance are not what she inevitably was going to get. So there's that. So I ended up finishing that. I did start Root Magic. by Eden Royce. I'm loving it. I feel like I'm about 50% of the way through. I did sprints last night. You probably saw a little bit of that in B-roll footage, but I did sprints last night, and I'm enjoying it. It's good. It's definitely a close look at the Gullah Geechee Nation, and just the history and culture behind the Gullah Geechee Nation, which I grew up with people that are part of the Gullah Geechee Nation, so it's just interesting seeing a lot of that. The book takes place in Charleston. You know, we're looking at a specific time in history that's pretty interesting. It's in the 60s. A set of twins, they're learning root magic from their uncle, and they're just learning kind of the ins and outs of it, which some of the stuff I'm familiar with in terms of, like, when we talk about root magic, conjuring, there are some practices that I am familiar with, and others in this book that Eden is specifically discussing that I'm not as familiar with, which is, you know, which is good. It gives me an opportunity to learn some things. I think the character development is stellar. I love the relationship that the twins have with their uncle. He's their teacher, but also I think, like, their confidant, like, especially when it comes to dynamics with their mom. Their father is not in the picture, and, you know, it makes it hard on them, so it's nice having, you know, their uncle around. And their mom is completely devastated and heartbroken by the fact that the father isn't there, and sometimes that kind of manifests in the relationship dynamics that she has with the kids. Not necessarily in a bad way, but she's more tense. I think it was one part where one of our main characters was like, you know, she's easy to anger. Jezebel actually said that. She said, you know, mom is kind of easy to anger now, like, whereas her temper, I think, was more under control when the father was around. It's not so much there. And there's some good conversations about, like, bullying and being different, because Jezebel is learning root magic, and it's widely known that her family practices and the kids at school are not, you know, they're not friendly at all. Actually, they're complete assholes, and, you know, she's having to work through that. And there's some, I think we just hit the point where we're gonna be introduced to probably some not so great spirits or elements, because a lot of it so far up into this mark has been action paced, don't get me wrong, but I think that Eden Royce is doing a good job of establishing a background, because if you don't know anything about conjuring or root magic or the Gullah Geechee Nation, you're going to need that background. And this is a middle grade book, so I can understand why Eden has spent a significant portion of the beginning of this book really discussing what is happening with these characters. What is root magic? What is the Gullah Geechee Nation? You know, how does it play a role into the history of Charleston, which, if you didn't know, it plays a huge role into the history of Charleston, which I think is such a great cross-reference, because I'm still reading Black AF history, and one part of that narrative discusses Gullah Geechee Nation and how that nation was formed, and that it is still a thriving nation and community to this day. And most people don't even necessarily realize the history behind the Gullah Geechee Nation and how important it is to American history. So I'm glad that Eden Royce is taking the time to kind of lay that foundation for maybe younger readers who are not as familiar with that culture or the history of that nation. But I think we're about to dive into the portion of the book where things are going to start to go a little left. I'm excited to continue it. I don't know if I'm going to continue it today at work, because I was doing a blended read last night when I was doing sprints, and I'm so happy that I started doing a blended read, because there were some portions that I wanted to tap. There was a point where her uncle tells Jezebel, essentially, like, you know, he speaks to her in Gullah, right? And so I've heard, like, I've grown up hearing the Gullah language, Geechee dialect. Like, I'm so used to hearing it that it's nothing. I think for me, it's nothing to hear it and to have a rough translation of what's being said. Because when you grow up around it, and people that you're friends with or are part of your community, you know, are speaking Gullah or Geechee dialect, it's like you're used to it. You just know. So there's a point where he speaks to her in Gullah and she answers back, and they have this whole conversation about like dialect and language and how they were and have been, and still to this day, because I remember it when I was in school, people assume that they're stupid or that they're like they can't learn, that they're ignorant because of their language. And so basically he was talking about code switching, like because they didn't speak the King's English. It's horrible. Like, this is why I keep having these conversations about African American vernacular English, because people don't understand that this is not just something people are like, oh, well, it's an exchange of cultures and da-da-da-da, and you can't gatekeep a language. I was about to cuss just now. I was about to cuss so bad just now. The issue with that sentiment, to be honest with you, is that most people who say that stupid behind crap do not understand the legacy of hatred and discrimination that comes behind speaking Gullah, Geechee, AAVE. Like, people do not recognize. I want to slow down now. Sitting there flying and speeding, and now you see the cops, and now you want to slow down. Doing all of that to pass me, and now you see the cops, and now you want to slow your roll. You should have slowed your roll to begin with. Foolery. People don't drive. People cannot drive. People cannot drive. So anyway, going back to the point at hand here. People typically do not recognize the discrimination and the legacy that is left behind, the trauma that is essentially left behind when we're talking about language. And people feel like, oh, well, like I said, people feel like, oh, you can't gatekeep, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, there's just not a lot of respect there. Like, people can speak in certain dialects, speak certain languages, and white supremacy allows white people to dictate that they're less than, that they're uneducated, that they're not smart, they can't learn anything. But once white people feel like it's cool and it streamlines, it becomes a part of popular culture, then it's okay. Then it's fine if we talk like that. That's ridiculous. And he makes it a point to point out, he makes a point to state to Jezebel that, they taught Jezebel and her brother how to speak the King's English because they were ridiculed so much for speaking Gullah. They were thought that they were basically told that they couldn't be educated. They couldn't learn anything. They were bullied by students and teachers alike. And I remember kids that I grew up with speaking Gullah, Geechee, and they too were bullied. They were treated less than. They were treated as if they were uneducated. And it's unfortunate. Which is why this exchanging of language doesn't always sit right with me, because a lot of people who indulge in the exchanging of language don't have enough, respect to understand the language that they're using. There's no respect there. They don't understand that people have been ridiculed for using it, and now it's cool to use it. So you have to think at some point, you have to imagine at some point that the group that had been ridiculed, the group that had been slapped in the face, the group that is continuously told you will never be anything because of the way you speak, you must think at some point that they're going to feel some type of way about your acquisition of their language and not respecting where that language came from. You have to think that at some point. You can't just think, oh, we're exchanging languages, it's not a big deal, get over it. You can't possibly assume that. You can't possibly think that. But unfortunately, there are people who do think that way. And I get comments like that on my AAVE video all the freaking time. When I tell you, all of the time, I get video comments still on that video about how I stole their language. Boy, I tell you, y'all got some caucasity in you. It just, my goodness gracious, if this is one thing you go have, is that caucasity. So anyway, he said that, which I thought was just a good point to like note in terms of like tabbing. And then he also told her straight up, with the girl that was bullying her, listen, let me tell you something. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. And I know some people who watch my channel don't even know what that means. And I know there's a lot of y'all who do watch my channel who know exactly what that means. And so, yes, all skin folk ain't kin folk. And he had to tell her that because that girl was acting a complete and total fool. But he had to let her know that there are people in this world, black people, who will shuck and jive for white people because they think it'll make their lives easier. And they will put down other black people. They will kick other black people to the side. Will kick other black people to the side, right? Mind you, for their benefit because they think it'll make their lives easier. Instead of realizing at the end of the day, honey, we is all black. You could be a pick-me if you want to, and they gonna treat you just like a pick-me. I can't stand a pick-me. I cannot stand, and we got pick-me's in this community too. I said what I said, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm gonna keep it a $1.50 all the time. But you continue to act like a pick-me, honey, they gonna treat you like a pick-me. It is what it is. Anyway, moving on, because I'm sure you're all like, dang, Ashley, girl, I know. Okay, last thing I'm reading is I made a little bit of progress in Black AF this week. I'm maybe about 115 pages into it. That's a rough estimate, but I feel like I'm about 115 pages into Black AF. It's good. Like, I don't know what else to say. It is good. I'm on the section where they are talking about how white people assumed that the need for black people to want to free themselves from slavery and bondage was a mental illness. I did not know that it was actually documented as a mental illness for black people who no longer wanted to be slaves, and they never wanted to be slaves. I should correct myself there. Who just refused to remain in bondage. They were considered to be mentally ill. That's amazing to me. And so he talked about too I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but the woman that was the inspiration for Toni Morrison's Beloved, and how she killed I think she was a product of rape. She was raped, and she didn't want the same thing to happen to her toddler, who was a girl. So she killed her. And they said, imagine having to, the way that he framed it was, imagine having to make a decision where you're deciding whether your child should live or die because of the dire circumstances of slavery, right? You're having to make that decision. Should my child live? Should my child die? And you can't assume that was an easy decision for her to make. And then on top of that, it's ironic that, during this whole entire time, you have the Revolutionary War beginning, and it's okay for, white people to say, give me liberty or give me death. Like, I'm willing to die behind this. But when black people say, like, I'm willing to die behind this, I would rather die than become a slave. Because he also talked about, the ship of slaves that they overtook the ship, and then they intentionally, they drowned themselves, and that's considered a mental illness. But when we look at it, when it's flipped, when it's the same thing, because it is give me liberty or give me death in both situations. But when black people do it, it's a mental illness. But when white people engage in it, it's revolution. So he talks a little bit about that, and some icons in terms of people who were starting to revolt. And he talked about one specific guy. I wish I remember people's names, y'all. I'm horrible with names. But a specific guy who was infamous. I'll put his name on the screen, because at this point, I'm gonna have to, because I need everybody to look at the story. He was so infamous, to the point that he had white people shooketh. They were scared of this man, because he was legendary in the fact that he couldn't, they couldn't catch him, and he would steal and free other slaves, and they just couldn't figure out where this man was. They couldn't figure out how he was maneuvering. They came up with all types of theories, he's got to be a ghost, he's got to be this, he's got to be that, because there's no way that this man is doing this. And he basically had them scared the entire time, and it became such an intense whisper network, that he would have other Black people in communities like helping him, and he would be they would also like make up stories on his behalf to even make him a grander legend. And of course, you know, as things go, somebody is always that one person where he ends up getting caught and killed. And it's fascinating in the sense that I did not know that they say that the police officially was started in Boston in like 1830 something, I believe. But if you go back and you look at this situation, it actually was in Painesville, South Carolina, where it's Painesville, South Carolina, I believe, where they actually decided to come up with a group and stop the potential of other revolutions or other people like this guy coming, you know, feeling confident enough to do what he was doing. They wanted to nip all of that in the bud. And I had an idea of where he was going with this, because he said what happened next created the lasting relationship that we see now with Black people and the police. But I had no idea he was like, and that was, they called it the Painesville Police Commission, I believe is what it ended up being. And so that's where we get this initiation of the police, was to withhold Black people from feeling confident enough to revolt. And I'm just saying, y'all, I just feel like everything about this country is just woven in discrimination and white supremacy. And often, you know, people are like, oh, this great country that we live in. And it's like, you know, I reckon with the fact that there are some benefits, of course, that I get from living in the United States, but I can't negate the difficulties that come with being a person of color in this country. You can't negate the history of this country. And a lot of people like to look over it, like to wash over it, like to not acknowledge the history of this country. And it's super unfortunate because so many things that are so commonplace in this nation were founded on racist or discriminatory practices. Like if you think about Wall Street, when I was reading this book, I learned that Wall Street was founded upon, it's so disheartening, it was a slave market, and the Dutch name is very close to what we see in the English name of Wall Street. But Wall Street was a slave, it was a slave market where they sold slaves. And I just, the correlation, it's amazing. But I'm going to continue reading that today while I'm at work. I don't know what my audiobook will be for this week. For today, not this week. I haven't decided what I want it to be for today. Last night when I was going to sleep, I was listening to Christina C. Jones's book. I can't remember. I'll put the cover on the screen, but it's a reread for me because I really low-key just need to finish that series. I own the entire series and I still haven't read it. I still haven't finished it. So I think I'm going to do that. This lighting is horrible, but I will check in with y'all later. Hey y'all, I just wanted to do a quick check-in. I have been on the move today a little bit. We did grocery shopping today. We had to go buy some winter clothes today, and we had to go mail some stuff off today. And so there was a lot of things, a lot of moving parts just going on today in general. But yeah, I have not really gotten a lot of reading done for Blackoween. I know in one of my B-roll footage clips, I showed a book that I am currently reading. It is a history book, nonfiction, Enemies and Neighbors. And I know that everyone, well, I don't know if everyone, but I'm not sure how you may not have caught wind of what's happening in the Middle East right now. And I always turn to books, I think, in times like these to understand historically what has been happening. I know a little bit, but I am not well versed, and I felt the need to educate myself. And so that is, I try to make sure that I have as much, access to information as possible to educate myself and to help me better not speak out of turn and to uplift the voices that need to be heard. And so I'm not far into that. I literally am probably about a chapter in. It's very, very dense. Not dense necessarily in the writing, because I think the writing is accessible, but it is a lot of information to consume, and I am trying to come at it with a very critical eye, because it is not being written, it's being written, I should say, from a Western perspective, although the author has been studying everything that has been happening in the Middle East for 40 years and has done extensive research. But it's one thing to research something and to experience it. So I just started that. I haven't had a chance to catch up on anything for Blackoween since I did sprints on Thursday. I went to an event last night, and so I was not able to read last night. I did start 2 things that are not Blackoween related, and the first is Escape from Mr. Limoncello's library. My daughter and I are listening to that in the car. She's getting older now, and so audiobooks are a thing now. It's a possibility, something that she's actively excited about. So we started listening to that. We're actually about 50% of the way through. We started listening to it a couple of days ago, but I just never mentioned it. It's a middle grade mystery book. It's Sky, Mr. Limoncello, who's very known for like these games that he develops. And so our main character is at school, and him and his classmates get this opportunity to write an essay to be chosen by Mr. Limoncello in this new library that he's created. And our main character does inevitably get chosen, and he and his other counterparts are, I don't want to say locked, or like kept captive in Limoncello's library, but they have to figure out how to escape from it, and it's like a series of different tasks that helps them escape. It's very Charlie and the Chocolate Factory-esque. I think that Limoncello definitely reminds me of Willy Wonka, and so there's this kind of nostalgia to it for me a little bit, even though we know that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory does have some very not so great origins in terms of the original text by Roald Dahl. But I am, for the most part, I am enjoying it. My daughter, she goes in and out. She's still young, so she's in kind of trying to figure out what is going on, but it's interesting. I also ended up starting Divine Rivals, which I know is super hyped here, Bookstagram, TikTok, and you know what? I'm enjoying it, okay? This was not one that I anticipated enjoying at all, but this setting, this, Monet read it and really enjoyed it, and she brought up a good point. Like, this World War I era type setting is very appealing to me, and I didn't think about it, that was what the setting of the book was going to be. It was not my thought process, like, oh, this was, the setting of the book was, like a World War I-esque type of era, and I love historical settings like that, and so it's just making it even more interesting. But I'm about I think 20% of the way through. It focuses on two characters. It's fantasy because it's two gods. It's God and a goddess that are at odds, and people are taking one side or the other. And so we have these two main characters who work wanting to be writers for this paper, and competitors of sorts. And there's this magical element because our heroine, her brother has gone off to the war and he's missing in action. And so she, writes him letters. She writes him a letter and actually goes to our hero. And there's this correspondence that begins to exist between the two of them, even though they don't know. He knows that it's her, from my understanding, but she doesn't know that it's him. So it creates this really interesting dynamic. I'm enjoying it. The writing style is actually really good. And the second book comes out in December, and I'm actually looking forward to that. I have a couple other things that I need to get started. It's kind of late. It's Saturday night. It's like after 10 o'clock. So I spent an hour on Instagram just because life. Why would I not spend an hour on Instagram? Like, why would I not do that? I do want to get through more of Root Magic, because I need to move on to my next prompt. I really do think that I'm going to get my all 6 prompts done for Ruby's Crew Park, but I don't think I wanted to explore Noir Apothecary, but the way that October has worked for me, I don't think that I'm going to be able to finish Noir Apothecary. I also need to, for this weekend, start The Dark 30, because that is our group pick and I hadn't started it yet, and everybody seems to be enjoying it, which I'm glad, because I got to pick the group read, so I'm excited about the fact that people are enjoying it. So I think this evening, I'm not going to worry about starting The Dark 30 because I just don't think that that's going to happen. But I will probably continue on with Root Magic, as well as reading a little bit of Black AF history. I still haven't made any progress since I talked about it last, which was that yesterday that I talked about it? I must have talked about it yesterday, yeah. I haven't read anything since I gave you the update yesterday on it, and so I'm hoping to read maybe like another 50 to 75 pages, but I also need to finish Bitterroot. So I have quite a stack of things that I am literally trying to make it through at freaking past 10 on a Saturday night. Like, who the hell do I think I am at this point? Like, clearly who knows? I have no idea. So with that being said, I am going to try to buckle down and get some stuff done. I don't have a lot of time, but your girl is going to try to make it happen. We'll see what happens, but I will do another check-in whenever I get a chance. Moment of transparency here. I'm not filming, I am filming, but I am filming. I keep saying filming. I'm feeling very overwhelmed in this moment. I don't think I could ever put into words how difficult it is to be a single parent, content creator, working full time, and trying to stay on top of everything. I just don't. This is such a huge moment of vulnerability for me because I typically don't do stuff like this. And this clip may or may not even make it into the vlog. I am exhausted. I am tired. But it's like, in this economy, living in a capitalistic society, like I can't afford to slow down. I can't afford to take a break. And it's been an adjustment trying to handle things since I got back from vacation, from car issues to toddler going through developmentally appropriate behavioral issues. But the transition, man, that's a thing. And then I just never think about I never have gotten the opportunity to take for granted, like, the small things. Like, who's gonna do the laundry? Who's gonna cook dinner? Who's gonna make sure lunches are ready for the next day? Like, who's gonna bathe, story time, like do bath time, story time, and all of the above. Like, it's a lot. I don't know, my friends. I don't know. And I say this as I already have cooked dinner for the week, but I have meal prep. Also trying to be on top of my health. Trying to, make sure everything is in accordance in terms of, like, I just got a full blood workup, and there was one thing that I am concerned about, as well as my PCP is concerned about as well. So there's that, and so meal prepping and just trying to stay on top of things, and wanting to just lay in freaking bed and do nothing and just sleep. I'm not in a full swing of depression. I do have major depressive disorder, for those of you who did not know. I'm diagnosed, and it comes in waves, and it's usually worse when the seasons change. I went through a huge bout when we shifted from summer to fall. It hit me kind of hard, but I'm out of that. I think I'm just feeling very, very overwhelmed. But I also say all that to say that as I meal prep, I'm gonna listen to an audiobook. I don't know what yet. I have two options. It's either gonna be Divine Rivals, or I'm gonna continue on with my read of Root Magic. I do need to get some of that done. I'm almost finished with Bitterroot. I read a little bit of it last night, but I didn't get to read as much as I wanted. I was just exhausted last night. And I just sat in my living room and did absolutely nothing last night, as I should, because that's just what needs to happen. So I did do that, but I think I want to listen to one of the two of those. Will probably get listened to. I probably will listen to Divine Rivals first. I also think mentally I have been consuming a lot of what's happening in the world, and I'm trying to find a balance, because at the same time, I have the luxury to not experience what Palestinians in Gaza are experiencing right now. Like, I have the privilege to kind of remove myself from it, and I don't want to become so disconnected that I am essentially ignoring what's happening. I don't want to lose my sense of humanity, but I think, I've been listening to podcasts and keeping up with it. I mean, I've been listening to 4 or 5 podcasts a day, and just noticing, some of the bias in the reporting, and some of the things that are not being captured on mainstream media, and reading, and being in social media, and just trying to stay actively engaged and aware, and understanding that I have this mental fatigue, right? But it's a luxury to say that I have mental fatigue, and then to be able to remove myself, and I don't want to take that luxury for granted and lean into it so much that that I lose, in essence, not saying I lose my humanity completely. I wouldn't go that far, but it's just not wanting to lean into that privilege too much. But then also trying to find this balance that, I don't want to send myself into a spiral. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's just a lot mentally going on. But then I'm going to listen to one of the two of those things. I'm going to take a bath tonight and just detox and relax after I get finished doing a little bit of meal prep. I probably will try to read something physically then. I don't know what, but I will figure that out. But yeah, I will check in. I'm going to try my hardest to check in before I go to sleep tonight, because I have another, I'm editing a vlog that is going up on my comic channel tomorrow. So I need to go ahead and edit that, and then start the editing process for this vlog as well. Okay, friends, I finished. Wow, I came home right now. So I finished my meal prep. Don't know what's going on with my voice. Just so people can get an idea of like, what do I meal prep? Like, what am I eating? So I got these plastic containers from Target, I think I got these from. So typically when I do my meal prep, I try to include protein, veggie, and carb. Less on the carb, heavy on the protein and the veggie. So for the first 3 days of this week, I'm going to be eating fish. I usually do 2 pieces because it's low calorie, high protein. And it fills me up. Potatoes, about, I wouldn't even say half a cup, maybe half a cup. And then I always do a little over a cup of broccoli. I'm a broccoli fiend. If there's one thing to know about me, it's that I am obsessed with broccoli. Don't know what that is, but I'm obsessed with broccoli. Yeah, so I don't really season the fish heavily, just enough to give it a little bit of flavor, but I do watch how much sodium I am intaking as well, just because I have a family history of high blood pressure, so I have to be careful with my sodium intake, which usually I'm not, but at least when I cook at home, I know that I can control that. So that's my meal prep for the day, or for at least the first 3 days of the week, and then I will figure out Thursday and Friday. I do have some veggie burgers in there, so I may do veggie burgers and something else, but we'll see what happens. I'm still listening to Divine Rivals. I'm a little over 30% way in, and I am about to begin editing this vlog that I have up. Once I get the editing done, I am going to go ahead and go upstairs, take a bath, and shut down for the night, because yes, I'm gonna shut her down for the night. All right, y'all. Am I currently in bed closing out this vlog? Why, yes, I am, because sis is tired. When I tell y'all I am tired, it is a different breed of tired. So let's take a long story and make it short. When I was supposed to go to sleep last night and shut her down, I did, and my child got sick. So I hate when she gets sick because she's so little, and you know, I think language wise it's kind of hard to describe like how you're feeling at that age, especially when you're sick. So I did go to work for a few hours, then had to leave because she wanted to try to go to school this morning. We tried it. I was not surprised that they ended up calling me like 4 hours into my work shift, and so we had to go to the doctor because I was concerned about a couple of things. They're telling me it's just a viral infection, but she had a fever 101.7 degrees, which is the highest fever that she's had in a very long time, so she is sick. So I'm tired. Taking care of a sick baby it's exhausting, and if anybody has ever told you it's not exhausting, they're lying to you. So I just want to kind of wrap up overall like what I generally read this week, and I was able to get through a couple things. I did have patron sprints tonight, and so I did end up reading more of Root Magic. I took the cover off because I hate reading hardcovers with the cover on, but I did get 212 pages into this, which is good. That was my number one goal for the rest of this week, was to make more progress in Root Magic. It is good. This book is creepy. Ain't nobody telling me this book was creepy like that. There are some things going on with an additional character that I can't say anything about because spoilers, spoilers, baby. But this book is good. I'm hoping to finish this week, so it'll be in this upcoming vlog. But 212 pages puts me at over the halfway mark for that one, so I am happy about that. I did not read as much of Black AF history as I anticipated reading this week, but that's okay. I think that is one that I'm just going to end up having to finish over the course of the next couple of weeks. In terms of a couple other things that I've been listening to, I have made significant progress in Divine Rivals. It is good. Sad. It is sad. No one told me that. I just feel like something bad is going to happen in this, and I feel like I haven't been sufficiently warned about this. But we've entered into part 3 of the book, and so we're on the front line. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away, but there is some front line elements going on right now that make me very, very nervous. But I am 63% into Divine Rivals. I did not pick up, well, that's not true. I did pick up a little bit more of Enemies and Neighbors, but I did not get far into it. This is a lot more dense. I know I was saying before that it was accessible, but the author's writing in this is dense, but I am like 20 pages into this. I am taking my time with this one because I know that no one is going to put this one on hold right now. And so I feel like I can pace myself better with this, but with this one, I do not have that option. This one is going to come at me like a wrecking ball. I don't know why that, Miley Cyrus reference, that wasn't intentional at all. I promise. It really wasn't. So I feel like I dipped and dabbed into a few things, but didn't really finish anything this week, except Julieta and Romeo's, and I finished some stuff from my comic book channel, but this was like a very blase week for reading. I don't know what happened here. I mean, I know what happened. I was feeling very overwhelmed this week, which I talked about in an earlier clip. I was just feeling very, very overwhelmed, and I think that that's just a result of feeling overwhelmed. I'm hoping that this upcoming week is going to be better in terms of reading, but with me reading multiple things at the same time, of course, nothing is genuinely getting finished. I still have not picked up more of Bitterroot since I talked about it a couple of days ago. That will be finished this upcoming week as well, and so I think for the upcoming vlog, I think you saw a lot of like progress updates in this vlog for stuff that I was currently reading, not really technically finishing anything. But what I am hoping is that as we step into this new week, I'll start wrapping some of these things up. I know I definitely will have Divine Rivals, Bitterroot, and Root Magic will all be finished in this upcoming week, and then we'll see what's going to happen when I roll for my next pick for Blackoween, and then also we are going to be looking at picking up Dark 30. So that will definitely be one that I am going to try to push through this week. I also have a stack of like children's lit that I haven't been able to get through. So you're going to see me talk a little bit about that in this upcoming week as well, which gives people a better idea of, I think, what I'm doing when it comes to children's lit. Because I feel like you see it, but I'm not really talking about it on my channel because I don't typically do wrap-ups anymore. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And I read too much to be doing a long behind wrap up, but I have some of that stuff that I also want to go through. But yeah, that's kind of it for this one, y'all. I think this is going to be a long vlog. I actually am editing it as I'm filming this clip, so it's close to an hour at this point. It still may be close to an hour by the time I add this clip in, this final clip in, but we'll see what happens. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. And if you're looking for ways to support the channel, all the links will be down in the description box below. And I'll be back with another video soon. Bye!
I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all